With all my husband's pampering, I was truly happy and glowing. I felt fulfilled for the first time in my life. 9 months had already passed, and we were anxiously expecting the child that would finally silence every voice and every insult. When labor started, we rushed to the hospital with joy and fear mixed together. But things did not go as planned. The doctors said it was difficult for me to give birth naturally. According to them, the baby was too big and healthy, and they even joked that I might not have been doing enough exercise. I didn't argue. At that point, all I wanted was for my baby to come out alive. There was no issue when it came to money. My husband paid the huge amount demanded for the operation without blinking. The surgery was successful, and I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. That child truly united us. My husband was overjoyed. I felt like a complete woman at last. Everything was peaceful until the baby turned 6 months old. One afternoon, a visitor came to see us. While admiring the baby, she suddenly joked and said, "Your son resembles the houseboy so much. Is he your husband's brother?" My heart skipped. "Who do you mean is my husband's brother?" I asked sharply. "I mean the houseboy," she replied casually. "Why would you ask such a thing?" I snapped. "Your son resembles him so much." Out of shock and fear, anger rushed through me. Out of everyone, you only noticed that my son looks like the houseboy. A common houseboy. "Don't be angry," she said calmly. "When he grows up, the resemblance will be more obvious." "He looks more like me," I said quickly, forcing a laugh. But deep down, I knew the truth. My son truly looked like the houseboy. From that moment, fear became my daily companion. My next plan was to do everything possible to send the houseboy away or at least stop my son from constantly seeing him. My husband had not noticed anything yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. It was rare, but I understood why this resemblance existed. I also knew I had to act fast. Nobody knew the real father of my child. That is why people say only a woman truly knows the father of her children. It wasn't entirely my fault. The pressure mounted on me for years. The insults, the shame, the mockery of being called barren pushed me into confirming what I feared most. Any woman who has ever been accused of barrenness without proper medical proof would understand my pain. People said I lived a reckless life and flushed my future away. They claimed I was frustrating a good man with my childlessness. Yet here I was, finally happy. But happiness never stays too long. My husband became very ambitious about having another child. Our son brought so much joy into our home. I thought the struggle was over, but it was only the beginning of another storm. Our son was approaching 1 year old when my husband came home one evening with gifts. He looked unusually cheerful. He asked me to eat with him. I knew my husband well. When he was this happy, it usually meant to things love or a serious discussion. That night, he didn't rush into romance as I expected. Instead, he sat quietly, deep in thought. I knew something heavy was on his mind. When you have lived with a man long enough, you can read him better than anyone else. If you can't, then it means he is sharing his heart with another woman. As we prepared for bed, he finally spoke. "There is something I want to tell you, sweetheart." "I am listening, honey," I replied, already nervous. Ever since Onyini was born, I am a new man. I walk proudly in the office now. People respect me. Nobody talks to me anyhow again. "I am happy for us too," I said softly. Then he said what I feared the most. "I want another child. Whether boy or girl, I don't care. I want you to become pregnant again as soon as possible." My heart sank. "Let Onyini grow a bit more, my darling husband," I said, trying to delay the inevitable. But I knew I was only avoiding a truth that would one day explode. There was no hope in what he was asking. Yet he begged, "I will buy you a car. Tell me anything you want. I will provide it. Just promise me another child, please." His voice shook. He was desperate. Are you not happy that we are now a complete family? Give me another child, please. How could I deny him? How could I tell him the truth? I had only two choices: confess everything or continue living a lie. Finally, I forced a smile and said, Arins, you know how long and hard we tried before Onyini came. Let us try again. But inside me, fear screamed louder than my words. Accepting to become pregnant for my husband again was like accepting to carry another heavy secret on my head. In my heart, it felt like I was agreeing to something that would never truly be his. My husband had started mounting pressure on me, disturbing my peace every day and night. He believed I was refusing to have another child simply because I had Onyini through surgery. He kept talking, complaining, and reminding me how important it was for him to have another child. He didn't know the storm he was stirring. To him, it was simple husband and wife, another baby. To me, it was fear, lies, and planning. I had no choice but to think deeply again about how I was going to lure Sigan, make him lose control the way it happened before, and then carry another pregnancy that my husband would believe was his. The first time it happened was a mistake. I was angry, emotional, and not fully aware of my actions. But if it happened again, it would no longer be a mistake. It would be a deliberate act. That truth haunted me. I never imagined myself crossing that line again, especially not with the houseboy. But life had backed me into a corner, and desperation has a way of changing people. My husband's attitude worsened. He started acting strangely, raising his voice, and even threatening to report me to his mother. He knew very well that my mother-in-law was not someone I wanted problems with. That woman could turn a small issue into family warfare. He didn't know what he was doing to me emotionally. But one thing was clear: he wanted another child at all cost. That was when I made up my mind again. I told myself that if this was the only way to protect my marriage and my secret, then I had to do it. But fear followed that decision closely. What if Sigan realized the truth this time? What if he connected the dots? He had always looked at me differently after that first incident, like someone who knew too much but was afraid to speak. One afternoon, I saw Sigan playing with Onyini in the compound. The way my son was laughing and clinging to him disturbed me deeply. Onyini seemed more comfortable with Sigan than with his own father. Sigan was always there carrying him, playing football with him, asking to spend time with him. That closeness scared me. If I made another mistake, things could spiral out of control. This situation was getting more complicated than I ever imagined. The first incident happened out of desperation, and I never believed pregnancy would come out of it. This time, I knew better. I knew my body, my cycle, and the risk involved. Yet, Sigan remained my only option. I decided to try again. That evening, my husband traveled out of town. The house felt unusually quiet, and my heart was restless. I invited Sigan to sit with me so we could have a drink together, pretending it was just to relax after a long day. He hesitated at first but later agreed. I encouraged him to drink more than usual, laughing and acting carefree. After about an hour, it was clear that he had taken too much. His eyes were heavy, his words unclear. I excused myself and went into my room, changed into a short gown that made me feel bold but nervous at the same time. I told myself it had to be quick and quiet. When I came back to the living room, Sigan was already fast asleep on the couch. I tried to wake him gently, but he was completely out of it, mumbling and confused. That was when reality hit me. He had drunk too much. Whatever control he had was gone. I felt angry and disappointed. I tried to stir his awareness, but it was useless. Fear rushed through me instead. This was not how I planned it. This was not how it was supposed to happen. I gave up. That night, sleep refused to come. My thoughts were racing. What if my husband decided to take this matter to the hospital again? What if doctors confirmed what I already knew, that he could not make a woman pregnant? If that truth came out, he would start asking questions. Hard questions. Questions I was not ready to answer, as if my thoughts summoned it. My husband soon announced that he was tired of waiting and guessing. He insisted that we both go to the hospital for proper tests. My heart sank. On our way to the hospital, I was quiet and distant. My mind was heavy with fear. I knew that once the doctor spoke clearly, suspicion would follow. There was no way around it. The doctor attended to us and ordered several tests. They were not simple ones, and that made me even more anxious. After everything, we were told to come back in about 3 weeks for the results. I felt a bit relieved but also deeply disturbed. Those tests were thorough, and I knew the truth would not hide forever. I considered telling my husband everything, confessing and freeing myself, but fear held my tongue. I decided to wait for the results first. The day finally came. We returned to the hospital and sat quietly in the waiting room. My hands were cold, my heart beating fast. Then the doctor walked in. So the doctor walked up to his office that fateful day we were expecting the results. My heart was beating fast like a drum in a village festival. I already knew that my fate was about to be sealed. That day was not just about medical results. It was about my life, my marriage, and the secret I had buried deep in my heart. I had nothing reasonable to explain to him that would make sense if things went wrong. No excuse, no story, no tears could save me. So I just sat there, waiting for the bombshell that was going to shock him to his bones. But the doctor's report saved me, at least for the moment. The medical report is out, and this is what it states, the doctor said calmly. Your wife is doing well. All she needs is someone with enough sperm count to make her pregnant. So it is left to you, sir, to do your job well, and for sure, things will work out. My husband looked confused but hopeful. Does it mean there is no problem with me, doctor? He asked. There are slim chances that you can make her pregnant. The doctor replied carefully, but you have to work more on yourself. My husband nodded, then asked the question that made my heart skip. Then what about our son, doctor? Did he also come by chance? There are cases where it becomes almost impossible for a man to make his wife pregnant, the doctor explained. But at some moments, with good timing, it becomes possible. So you must have been very lucky. That was it. Nothing else was said that could raise suspicion. The doctor didn't push further. He simply advised my husband to see a dietitian who would prescribe good nutrition for him. He warned him to reduce alcohol intake, stop stressing himself too much, dress moderately, without tightening his waist belt so firm, and get enough rest to help boost his reproductive health. We returned home that day, and for the moment, my husband didn't suspect anything. He was even more hopeful than before, but deep inside me, I was restless. I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to know if there was actually any chance at all. Time was not on my side. I was not getting any younger. As if the doctor already knew what was going on in my mind, he called me one afternoon. When I asked him why he wanted to see me, he simply said, "Just come to my office, madam." A few days later, when my husband had gone to work, I went to see the doctor. I needed clarity. I needed peace of mind. I wanted to know if Onyuni could, by any miracle, be my husband's child. Not that I was doubting anymore, but I needed to hear it from a professional. What the doctor told me shocked me to my bones. "Madam," he said, lowering his voice, "from the tests I conducted, there is no way your husband can ever get a woman pregnant." I felt the room spin. "I saw you both that day," he continued. "You were so happy. I didn't want to destroy your marriage, especially since I learned you already had a son." "Yes, doctor," I replied quietly. "I am a medical doctor," he went on. "But my salary doesn't permit me to live a luxurious life like you do, madam. Another reason I called you here is to seek your help. I need money, and I know your husband is rich enough. But I know it will be easier through you. I frowned. I don't understand you, doctor. I was already worried when he spoke indirectly. After the medical report, he said, I discovered that the child you claim to be your husband's can never be his biological child. He is his child, I tried to insist, even though my heart knew the truth. He sighed. Madam, I am a medical doctor. Your husband has enough money to conduct countless DNA tests. If I pick up my phone now and advise him to do a paternity test on that boy, you are finished. My legs went weak. Why are you doing this, doctor? I asked, almost in tears. I owe someone a lot of money, he replied. This is the only way I can save myself. How does this stop you from saving lives? I asked angrily. Each time I am treating a patient or inside the theater, he said, my heart pounds whenever my phone rings. I am scared someone is calling to demand his money. But when I discovered your situation, I knew my solution had arrived. I stared at him in disbelief. Is this how you take advantage of patients? I snapped. You are supposed to carry medical secrets to the grave. Do you realize I saved your marriage? He replied, I lied to your husband to make him believe he had a son. Is that not also a medical secret? If I had told him the truth, he would have started asking questions. I will report you for crossing professional boundaries, I threatened. I have done nothing wrong, madam, he said calmly. In fact, let me just place a call to your husband. No, I cried, panicking. How much do you want? The doctor turned to me and said calmly, 7 million. 7 million? I exclaimed in shock. Am I buying the hospital or paying the salaries of the entire staff in this building? Madam, you are only compensating a man who just saved your marriage. He replied without blinking. You are a thief, doctor, I snapped. He smiled and said, I am a businessman. When I see an opportunity, I make profit out of it. I will give you 3 days to deposit the money into my account, or I will let your husband know the truth. I returned home that day weak, worried, and sick in my spirit. My legs felt heavy as if they were carrying the weight of the whole world. Was I really going to walk up to my husband and tell him that Onyeni, the child he treated like gold the moment he realized he might be his only offspring, was not his biological child? Not just that the child was not his, but that the real father was another man. Not any man, but our houseboy. The thought alone nearly drove me mad. I decided to indirectly find out my husband's opinion about a woman who lied about the paternity of her child. I couldn't open up to him directly. I needed to test the waters first, to hear his thoughts, his judgment, and his possible reaction. The doctor was demanding 7 million naira, and I needed to know what my husband would do if he ever found out the truth. Would he forgive? Would he understand? Or would he destroy me completely? So one evening, I invited my husband into a casual conversation. I turned myself into a fictional character in a story I claimed to have read online, just to hide the truth and hear his honest opinion. Darling, I said, pretending to scroll through my phone. I read this story on a platform about a woman who had a child for another man and told her husband it was his. If you were the husband and later discovered the truth, would you forgive her? He didn't even think twice. I cannot accept such nonsense, he said angrily. Any man who accepts such a woman must be brainwashed by her. Where on earth does a married woman get pregnant for another man and still remain in that marriage? My heart skipped. So, if you were the one, I asked carefully, you would send her away, even if she had no choice. What do you mean she had no choice? He replied sharply. She had a choice before opening herself to another man. I won't just send her away. If I have the opportunity, I will send her to jail. A pregnant woman? I blurted out without thinking. He looked at me and said, when you pity such women, they take advantage of you. As a man, that thing is not done anywhere. I went quiet. After listening to him talk, I knew one thing for sure. My husband would never forgive me if he found out the truth. The fear entered my bones. But the doctor was asking for 7 million naira. I was trapped. My husband had terrified me with his words, and I was completely pushed to the wall. I had finally become a real married woman in the eyes of society. But the child that was supposed to bring joy had instead brought fear, secrets, and heavy consequences. There was so much at stake that I had no choice but to consider the doctor's demand. Still, deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I felt like even if I paid the 7 million, he would keep coming back for more. Blackmail never ends once it starts. So I decided to ask him directly what guarantee I had that if I gave him the money, he would keep quiet forever and let me live in peace. When I called him, he asked me to come and see him so we could talk things over. He said he would be considerate. I agreed. However, I was shocked when I got to the venue he sent and discovered it was a hotel. "Doctor," I asked nervously, "why must we meet here? We could sit in your car or your office and discuss. Why rent such a luxurious room just to talk about what we already know?" He smiled and said, "This matter is delicate. Even walls have ears. I want to be sure we are safe." I muttered, uneasy. Then I added in pidgin, "Hope say person day safe so." He assured me everything was fine and led me into the room. My heart was beating fast. Once inside, he looked at me and asked, "How much do you actually have to keep my mouth shut forever?" "Just 1 million, I replied quietly. He laughed. 1 million is a joke. If you don't have the money, then give what you have so we can balance the rest." I was confused. "I don't understand," I asked. "Like what?" He stared at me without saying anything. "What else do I have?" I added nervously. "Apart from the 1 million. Do you want me to show you what you have?" He asked as he stepped closer. That was when it dawned on me. That was when I understood his plan and why he brought me to a hotel room instead of an office. He moved closer, invading my space, placing his hand on my lap, speaking in a low voice. "This is another way of settling the balance," he said. My whole body froze. I realized at that moment that I had walked into another trap, one worse than the first. "You know I could be the one bearing those children with you and your husband," the doctor said casually. "And as long as I remain your family doctor, I can even issue reports that prove the children belong to your husband. That's all. Then the rest can follow later." I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the same man I once respected as a professional, someone I trusted with my secrets and my life. Yet here he was, speaking like a complete stranger with a dark mind. I tried to remain calm and decided to play along. "What do you mean by the rest will follow?" I asked carefully. He leaned back and smiled. "We can end up forming a beautiful arrangement, one big family, and one day we inherit your husband's wealth together." That was when I finally understood the kind of person I was dealing with. The doctor was more dangerous than I had imagined. He wasn't just after money anymore. He was imagining himself taking my husband's place. All I did was try to save my marriage. And now this man wanted me to ruin it completely under the disguise of help. He was asking me to cross lines I never thought I would even approach. The thought of it made me sick. But then reality hit me hard. Where was I going to get 7 million naira from? What if I struggled, paid him, and he still came back for more? What if this never ended? He had already made it clear if I didn't have cash, I could pay in another way. My heart sank. I felt trapped, cornered, and helpless. What excuse was I going to give my Husband, if I suddenly needed such a huge amount of money? I felt like my back was against the wall. In that moment of fear, I decided to pretend to agree. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed time. I needed to observe him, to see if he truly meant to stop threatening me once he got what he wanted. We fixed another day to meet at the hotel. I agreed to give him 1 million naira upfront, with the promise that after that meeting, he would stop blackmailing me and let me live in peace. After everything I had done to keep my secret hidden, it hurt deeply that this doctor was the one trying to profit from my pain. Instead of helping me protect my marriage, he was doing everything possible to take advantage of my situation. He insisted I send the 1 million immediately as proof that I would show up. With a heavy heart, I withdrew all the money I had and transferred it to his account. It felt like I was tearing a part of myself away. That same day, he called me and spoke like someone issuing orders. "Do you even realize I'm doing this for your own good?" He said, "You help me, I help you. That's how life works." I didn't respond. I was too tired to argue. At that point, I just wanted everything to end. I wanted him off my back. I wanted my peace back, even if it meant walking through fire for a moment. He fixed the meeting for that evening. I noticed the timing immediately. My husband was traveling out of town that same day. The doctor knew. I don't know how he found out, but it wasn't a coincidence. He didn't want me to give him any excuse again. When my husband left, my heart felt heavier than ever. I walked into the hotel quietly and sat at the bar area, pretending to be calm. I texted the doctor that I had arrived. He replied, "I'm coming to take you upstairs." I waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. At some point, I started wondering if he was already with someone else. Why was he taking so long? As I sat there alone, my thoughts became loud. I began to reflect deeply. I questioned my choices, the risks, and how I had found myself in such a terrible position. For the first time, I asked myself if this sacrifice was really worth it. To be continued in part 4. Please support us by subscribing, commenting, sharing and liking our stories. Please drop a positive review on my page. Please follow this channel at Village Fire Tales for more interesting new episodes and stories.